Please, Dana Smith, maintenance, facilities budget. You got 2 copies.
Okay, well, the handouts that I gave you are some sample work orders that include labor hours and cost of supplies and the vendors that the supplies were purchased. The only missing link at this point in time is the items taken out of inventory. And I ordered the school due inventory program today. And we're trying to schedule training over the Christmas break, and we are going to put the maintenance inventory in first. And we will probably then go towards food service. I got some good news that at the new school at Harts, Jordan Smith has scheduled to install the safety access on the doors this week. Yes, finally.
Just wait till they get finished.
Okay, now for some bad news. About the Lincoln County High School walkway. The Department of Transportation grant, the bids are in, and the low bid was like $308,000, which is way over budget. We're going to deduct the steps from the lowest bidder to see how much that decreases the cost. And then you can decide whether we want to apply for an additional grant from the Department of Transportation, which would not be available till next year. Or there's some community partner program grants that are available soon, but you need a delegate or a senator to sponsor and start that process. So that's the bad news. A little bit more bad news with the athletic fields. It's too wet we had to send the dozer back Friday, so we're not getting anything done there right now. But hopefully we'll get things dried up. And we had a new fire marshal in town recently, and he hit us pretty hard with a lengthy list of things to do. So but we've got till his return next year to get these things done, and we've already got a lot of it done, but we got a lot more to do. So those are kind of the update and maintenance. If you all have some questions.
Yeah. Everybody have anything to take?
Explain what you mean by eliminating the steps. You mean
Well,
the cement?
And, yeah, the ramp, you've got a ramp that takes you down, and then you've got steps separate on the side of the ramp that you can, if you're able to walk down the steps. We included that. That was, I had asked for that to be bid as an alternate bid. They didn't do it. They included the steps and the ramp all as in one lump sum bid. So they're going to talk to the company to see what they'll do to lower the cost. But if we'd have had a bid with a alternative bid, we would probably got a little bit better price with the steps removed than what we're going to get with vendors.
Have the walker then as an alternate. Right?
Yes. That's what I asked to be done, but it didn't happen for whatever reason.
Realistically, it wouldn't take that much off of it, would it?
Maybe a third,
A third.
maybe, hope. But,
Well, the steps, they the same length as the ramp?
no.
Oh, okay.
The ramp, you're gonna have a lot
Build
more
a ramp.
concrete.
Well, you just build a ramp and build steps before.
Well, that's true too. So, we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah.
But I'll update you next month. Hopefully, I'll have some more information with you next month. And then we can decide whether to proceed, scrap the project, or whatever you guys want to proceed with.
What was your budget?
We had a $100,000 grant, and we had to use approximately $10,000 of that for the architectural fees. We're even with the steps removed. I think we're going to be way over the budget. But, we had engineers from the Department of Transportation that initially looked at the project. They seemed to think it could be done. CMN, of course, thought it like it would be done for that amount, but it just just didn't happen. And then there was 4 bidders, so it wasn't like we didn't have some competition going on there, so. Just missed the mark.
Was the bids close together?
Fairly close, within $40,000, $50,000, something like that.
There must be a lot more to this project than I ever figured.
It's a long way down that mountain.
There must
Long
be.
way down that mountain.
But we had heard these figures before, and kind of in shock and awe, then.
Yeah.
Well, while Mr. Smith is here and we're talking about maintenance and facilities, I want to bring up the fact that we did not get the award for the project that was submitted, the MIP project for the windows at Hamlin Pre-K 8 and Ranger Elementary. We believe that it was, that we had submitted everything that we were required to do, to submit. We submitted exactly the same thing, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Smith, that we did last year.
3 years in a row.
And last year, if you all remember, it was even announced that we had been, our project had been chosen, one of the ones that had been chosen, but when they got down to funding, they had run out of funding. And at no time did they mention that we needed any additional information. And even with the letter that came back from the SBA, from last year, there was no mention that we needed any additional information. Correct, Brenda?
There wasn't enough money.
And then when Mr. Smith and Ms. Powell spoke with Mr. Hall from the SBA, he stated there was no requirement for us to submit anything else. So it was unfortunate, a series of whatever happened, we did not get it. We want to make sure that as we go move forward and submit this project again, we will talk with them, try to make sure that there is nothing that would or could come up that they think that we might need to submit that they don't have. So that, we would be assured maybe that we would be able to get that project funded next time. It was unfortunate. I regret it. I don't know what else we could have done.
Trish, who was it that told you there was no requirement for what they were asking for?
Mr. Hall.
Mr. Hall?
Mr. Hall was, he is the person, the liaison that we always work with, to the SBA. He is the Assistant Executive Director of the Architectural Services.
Now, Dan, in the past, so the last 3 years, we did not include architectural or engineering costs, right? What about the project we had prior to that? Do you recall us having to include that in any of those, or you remember?
There was times that we were required to provide that service, and then there was times that I bid projects myself. In fact, I've done windows and bid them myself and used manufacturer's
Okay,
specifications.
the times when you had to provide that information, did they tell you you had to or something?
Yes. Or it was required by code in their, you know when you build a new school, you gotta have it. Or if the project's over a certain amount of money, or if it's a complicated project, you know you've gotta have it. And at any time I've decided that I could handle the bidding process and the specifications, I've always made sure that they knew that that was my intention. And as I did with this project. And had they told me that they wanted architectural and engineering fees included in this, I'd been more than glad to give it to them, because that's less work on me. So.
clarify, you spoke to Mr. Hall?
Mr. Hall.
Prior.
Yes, I've never spoke to Mr. Raines on any
I
project.
mean, did Mr. Hall, I mean, did any conversations ever come up, well, have we provided everything we needed to, or is there any, do
Yes.
you need to do more, or anything like that? Do you understand what was needed? Because Mrs. Smith wasn't here last week, so she was asking what it was we hadn't done, that they were not having the architectural and engineering fees included in our costs.
Has anybody spoke with anybody from the SBA regarding this, that, you know, we've never done this before, and explained that to them?
Yes, I spoke with Mr. Raines, myself. I emailed Mr. Hall. Yes, we have. Right.
And you don't think there's any chance that if we sit down and write in the letter that they may back up and say, you know, we were wrong in doing it this way?
I asked that question, and he indicated that they have already awarded all of the money that they had. They were down to about $5,000, and there would be no way that they could award another.
I think that's dirty. That's dirty because they should have sent you something prior to making that decision, saying, you know, you guys, we need this. And I think that's dirty. It's dirty work.
Or do we know if the county that got this money that we might have got, did they submit this architectural fee? Or
The architect, ZMM was at the meeting, and he did note that there were other projects that didn't include architectural.
that received money?
I don't recall if that was,
I can't answer that.
I can't answer that part either, and that was hearsay. I think you had that discussion, and you add anything to that?
Just that it was just, you know, just how it all kind of come about. I guess we were right at the final moments of this meeting when comment was made that, you know, Lincoln County did submit this architectural estimate. And it was at that point, there was a discussion with the authority members, and our project was pulled. But according to Mr. Ferguson, it happened very quickly, just a few minutes time.
But I did ask regarding local funds. If all of the projects that were awarded had included some local funds. And Mr. Raines told me that there were some projects that did not have any local funds in the projects. And, but that part is not required. And, but when they are doing a scoring, that those projects, if a county is putting in some local funds, does get a higher rate. But that did not help us.
Can I just say, Mr. Raines, and this is in the paper today, Mr. Raines replied to me that when the final decision, like you said, Jeff, came down, it was a member who had nominated Lincoln, then withdrew that nomination and nominated another project. Now, I don't know who that member was. That'll come out in the minutes, I guess, next time, but that it came down to one of the members. And I know with the, you know, when the superintendent goes to the other funding mechanism for the big projects, that's more, seems to be more of a political process. Is there influence here, Dana, where the local board can somehow lobby the board members? Is it whoever shouts loudest?
I've went to one of those meetings where they were handing out projects, and the administration ranked the projects, and then as the process was, well, board members would nominate a project, and then when funding was gone, it was gone, and they didn't necessarily go with the order of the administration ranking. And that's all I have to say about that.
But the administration had our project on it, right?
Our project for the last 2 years
From the
ranked
administration.
with administration for funding. And both years it was my understanding that it was moved down the list.
Okay.
And other projects moved up the list.
From
That
the-
was my understanding.
From the members.
from the members, not the administration.
Not this board
Yeah.
administration, yeah.
And it would be nice if we knew a member of the board to help us
Well,
get our
there's-
project nominated.
There's 3 state board members on that 9-member board, I guess, just not our local
Do you,
member.
you know what their names are?
Thomas Campbell, William White, and
Dunleavy.
Mr. Dunleavy. Yeah. And they're in my news. They're in my
They're
story.
all covered in Sean's story, so you.
Okay. I know Mr. White, but to me, I don't think that we ought, well, that's me, that's my personality, I guess, sit and take that without, I think they're holding it against us because we didn't pass the bond. I really do. I think they're mad about that, and they think, they're not gonna try to help themselves, we're not gonna help them. And
I think in general,
it's punishable.
they're angry about us not contributing to the schools that we've built in the past, with Harts, Lincoln County High School, West Hamlin. They don't feel like we've paid our fair share as compared to other counties with their new schools. Now,
But
there's some truth, there's some
Right,
truth.
but in this project here, we did.
Oh,
provide-
yes,
we're going to provide local.
we were gonna provide a fair share on this particular MIP project.
If they got to remember, we didn't ask for Lincoln County Hospital.
we absolutely did not.
Well, that's true, that's true. We still ended up having to take out a QZAB loan for that.
Yeah.
Didn't think that was quite fair.
What I'd like to do.
You're exactly right on that.
Yeah.
What I'd like to do, Dana, and this is just for everybody's, something for consideration, thinking about this whole process. Dana, would you, let me give you one, please. Thinking this whole process of this got me to thinking further about the needs projects that we may want to submit in the future and all this, how the whole scenario. And realizing that we did our CDFP, and have to do it every 10 years, but it does require, I guess, possible revisions. That I just, and this is just food for thought for everyone here, but, and I'll give one of these to you too, Sean, if you like. But first of all, I think that we need to gather our facilities committee and start all over again with this whole process. I know there's some members on that committee that really, may have been interested, maybe when the high school issue was up there, or the consolidation, but now their interest has kind of waned. There are other people who would like to get involved in what's going on, so it just seems to me like that we need to survey the members, see who's interested, maybe get, if there are openings there, or members or principals think there need to be other people, then let them make nominations to us. In other words, update our facilities committee and have it in hand. And then, from there, and you know more about these timeframes than I do, Dana, because I've asked you about a couple of them, but once that committee's in place, in step 2, review our existing facility plans. Now, some of these that we have now probably aren't very realistic anymore. Without a bond issue, certain ones like Guyan Valley would probably be unrealistic that you'd ever get them to fund SBA because of having less than 300 kids at that school. So, but anyway, for the committee to look at those things and see if there are any changes need to be made, because it's still right now it's stating the same things. And I'm not saying that maybe they won't come back and say we're going to continue to think these are our major projects, but let's let them look at them again. And then, of course, if we go through this whole thing in step 3, I'm just trying to think, I realize that whenever you revise your CEFP or maybe your committee, that should be conveyed to, I know the State Department of Education. I'm not sure about if the SBA is involved in that or not, but maybe, but just ever who may be. And then do all this in a timely manner so that by, and I'm thinking of maybe next September myself, but once again, you're the expert on the timeline, is that we have established a new committee, they've reviewed our plan. If they've seen the need for revisions of some of that plan, they've made those recommendations to the board, and the board has acted on them, and they've approved, and that has been submitted, and we've got a new revised CFP. So that in next October, when and that's when you submit the MIP, is that right?
Yes.
So we know for certain what that project, I expect Ranger and Hamlin will be in that again, but maybe this is one of those places where it could change, or maybe other things come about, but we're making sure we get all the funding sources in there. And then, as far as the needs projects, is that in December? Is that true? Is that
December
the same? But those are just things that I was, I'm just trying to think here of us having, when we do submit a project, that it's up to date and our CFP is up to date, considering that we have tried to, we've attempted to pass a bond several times in the county. We've only been successful once in my lifetime, and I don't know how well we're going to do down the road. But anyway, this is just some food for thought for everybody, board members and this superintendent and everybody else, for you to think about. That we need to go back and not wait till the last minute, but we've got 9 months or so, using my September guideline here, of doing this whole process and sitting down. And some of them may not take a lot of review. Other projects might, because when I think of a needs project, a major project, the one that we pushed so much in the bond, of course, was the school at Southern Midway in Duval area. Is it still going to be the same configuration? Do we still, if that's going to be a needs project, are we still going pre-K through 5, or do we want to alter that? So there's some people that we ought to have a middle school and all combine them. I'm not taking a position one way or the other, but that's why I think the committee needs to look at that and see what's feasible. And we could submit a needs project that might be acceptable to them. They may not fund it, but at least it would meet the guidelines. But anyway, I just wanted to share that with everybody, just for your thought, and you can follow up on it as you will. Thanks, Dana, real good on that. Inventory thing's good. I'm sure Bertie's going to try to get everybody that she can involved in that. Now, did you say as well?
Everybody's on board, all the directors that are involved with service, they're
Everybody.
fired up for it, everybody's fired up.
Yeah. Now, you say on this form you gave us the first year, that everything's included here except for the inventory
Everything's
component?
included, we're doing the labor costs, the supply costs. The only missing link is that inventory, those items taken out of inventory, which we're going to take care of this year.
Good.